Okay, so first of all, let me just say that I'm absolutely honored to have you here with me, Representative Gloria Johnson, Democrat, Tennessee. A lot to talk about, a lot's going on, so I'm just going to jump right in if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so first and foremost, the big question that's been going on, what was your initial reaction to President Biden's decision to drop out of the presidential race?
I guess, even though I've been hearing all the talk, I was surprised. It was a Sunday morning surprise for me. I was an early endorser of President Biden, had really appreciated his fight against gun violence and the conversations that we got to have at the White House about gun violence and what was happening in Tennessee, and just really appreciated so much of his work. So it was a hard one to take, but I understand, and these are his wishes, and so I'm absolutely going to support whatever he wants to do, and very eager and excited now to support Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, in her bid for the presidency. So, folks in Tennessee, we're excited. We were the first state for our delegates to go overwhelmingly for Harris.
Interesting. So let me ask you this then. How do you think that Biden's decision will ultimately impact the morale and the strategy of the Democratic Party? Because I got to tell you, as Democrats, we do more damage to ourselves than the GOP.
I can say that I can understand how that feels and what that looks like. I think it was a hard situation for Tennesseans to deal with initially. I've been traveling all 95 counties, and 95 counties I talked to folks that really wanted to keep President Biden. I think when they heard it from him, though, I think they're easily making the change. He has put his support behind his vice president, and I think they're ready to go with him. And as a matter of fact, I think they're excited to go with him. And so we are excited to be endorsing Kamala Harris and happy to support the VP in her bid for the presidency.
So do me a favor, give my listeners, if you will, give me a little bit of an insider's track as to how stuff like this goes on. There's no doubt in my mind that they reached out, meaning Kamala's office reached out to every single member of Congress, obviously yourself included. How did they sort of broach the topic or the conversation? Is it where they have everybody meet in one of the great halls there in the People's House, or is it done by phone? Are they reaching out specifically to you? Are they reaching out to your representatives? So is it sort of like my assistant will reach out to your assistant, and then we'll have Representative Johnson and get back to Vice President Harris? How does this thing end up playing out? Because it's so rare. I mean, I can't remember the last time that we ever saw anything like this ever.
Well, as a state representative, they didn't listen. They didn't ask us, but I think that. So I'm not sure how that worked in DC, but I know that for me, it was just listening to what President Biden's wishes were, and having had conversations with Vice President Harris when she came to Tennessee after the three of us went to the well. My two colleagues were expelled and I was not. She came to Fisk University and came and talked with us about organizing against gun violence. And so it was very easy for me to be supportive of her campaign because of all the work she's done when it comes to abortion rights and equality for women, as well as fighting against gun violence.
Mm-hmm. Well, then let me ask you this, because there's so many people right now who have been attacking President Biden day in and day out, despite the fact that I, too, like yourself, am a fan. I believe that he has done a great job, not just in the last 3.5 years as president, but over the course of his 5 decades of public service. So what legacy do you believe is leaving behind as he ultimately makes this decision to exit the race? And I guess what would be politics?
It's a huge and wonderful legacy, especially here in Tennessee. You know, he brought us out of the disaster of the former presidency and COVID. There's no question about that. He capped the price on insulin. We are a state with the highest number of diabetics. He negotiated prescription drug costs for Tennessee families, for the country. But in Tennessee, that's really, really critical. We have not expanded Medicaid. What he did for the auto industry in Tennessee is going to be hugely meaningful for generations to come. We have these good union jobs at the Blue Oval City with Ford, and now VW has chosen to be a union shop. So what we're going to see are Tennesseans doing better than they ever have before. And the Infrastructure Act, which is now rebuilding a bridge in Memphis that was so desperately in need, and every single Republican in Tennessee who was in D.C. voted against that Infrastructure Act. So what President Biden has done just for Tennessee alone is amazing, and his legacy will be strong and very positive.
But is that really true that your area in Tennessee, or Tennessee as a state, has the highest number of diabetics in America?
I'm pretty sure that, well, not number of, but per capita. You can't say number, but per capita for the state.
Wow. Wow. Look, is your area Nashville as well?
I live in Knoxville. I'm from Knoxville, but I work in Nashville in the legislature. So I am actually from Red Knoxville, Tennessee. So. Oh,
I see. Have you been to that new restaurant, Luogo?
No, I have not.
The Italian restaurant that opened up. It's a friend of mine who's here. They're generational restaurateurs, phenomenal Italian food and so on. And I actually, he opened
Nashville
up.
Or Knoxville?
No, in Nashville.
Oh, okay. No, I'll have to check it out though.
Yeah, I hear if it's anywhere near as good, which I can't imagine why it wouldn't be, as it is here in New York, Scotto's, then I can tell you Luogo has got to be at least the top 3 restaurant in all of Nashville. In fact, it's gotten me so, because I sort of miss him, Anthony. You know, I may end up taking a trip down to Nashville just to go to the restaurant. I feel almost guilty I haven't been there.
Well, that's great to know. Representative Jones and I go like to try new restaurants in town. So we're definitely going to put that one on.
You know, in fact, I think he opened up a second one there called Palado, which I think is like in Germantown.
Oh, okay. I live fairly close to, or the place where I stay when I'm here is fairly close to Germantown. So
all right,
definitely check it out.
I know more about Tennessee than you do.
There you go.
Right. So let me ask you this, right? So so how do you think the Democratic Party should address the division that will ultimately arise based upon Biden's decision? How do you think that they should handle it? Because, you know, you're hearing all these different conversations about, you know, who should run, who shouldn't run, open, it should be open or it should be a closed primary. You know, we're so close now. We're 175 days from the election. Is now really the time to have an open primary?
You know what? I firmly believe there's not going to be division in Tennessee. Tennessee is so ready to push back against the Republican, what I call trifecta of a disaster. We're talking about a presidential nominee who has 34 felony convictions and is an admitted sexual predator.
And twice impeached. Let's not
twice impeached and more indictments to come.
And he's a corporate fraudster to the tune now of $500 million. I mean, let's not cut him short.
The list is long, but then we've got a vice president underneath him who believes that women should stay in abusive relationships. Then we've got Senator Marsha Blackburn, who voted against the Violence Against Women Act, who voted against equal pay for women, who believes in a federal abortion ban, who questions the right to contraceptions and IVF. This is a disaster for women and girls in Tennessee. This trio has got to go in order for Tennessee women and girls to be safe, and all of our vulnerable communities are at risk with these folks at the top of the ticket.
You know, I know Marsha Blackburn very, very well. In fact, it was really I who brought her into the whole Trump fold many, many years ago. I don't remember her as being this radical right MAGA. I really don't. I do know that when Trump became president-elect, she was looking for a spot. You know, I think she wanted to be like Secretary of Commerce, or she wanted a administration position. Trump was never really that impressed with her to the extent that he even offered her anything. So I find it interesting that she has now gone all MAGA. She spent the 4 years of 2016 through 2020 basically on her knee, kissing his ass day in and day out. And now she's managed to rise at least to somebody who is, let's just say, not ignored.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's her thing. It's always been about her. She's one of the top receivers of NRA dollars. You know, Big Pharma that's who she's working for. She's not working for Tennessee families. She is working for billionaires and special interests, and she is only looking to elevate herself. I'm thinking about lifting people into the middle class in Tennessee because, quite frankly, they are falling out of the middle class. Marsha Blackburn doesn't believe we should raise the federal minimum wage. Tennessee's minimum wage is the same as the federal, $7.25 an hour. You cannot survive on this. As a matter of fact, even if you make $8 to $10 an hour, which so many in Tennessee make, how do you afford $15 an hour for childcare? You know, the math just does not work. But she cares nothing about regular Tennessee families that are working 2 and 3 jobs, trying to pay the bills, trying to get their kids through school, and trying to stay healthy in a state that hasn't expanded Medicaid. She's voted to repeal the ACA, and she has voted against negotiating drug prices for seniors and voted against capping insulin.
So how is she still in office then? I mean, obviously, her actions, to me, as a voter, regardless of the state that you're in, if my representative is not aligned with my interest, and my interest is merely to afford to stay alive, it's not even to go out and buy myself a new car every year, or every 2 years, or every 3 years, or every 5 years. That's not possible on $7.25 an hour or even $10 an hour. And when you have the price of prescription drugs like insulin, and you have a representative that's more concerned about Big Pharma making $5, $6, $7 billion a year, I'm not sure, how does somebody stay in office?
Well, I think that a lot of Tennessee, you know, they're kind of used to just pulling in our lever. But what has happened in Tennessee over the last couple of years, and quite frankly, since me and my colleagues went to the well in the state legislature and exposed much of what was happening, people are paying so much closer attention now. And I'll be honest with you, Marsha Blackburn's reputation, even with Republicans in this state, is not so great. Mm-hmm. So she has a lot of folks that aren't fans. And currently, right now, in the Vanderbilt poll that came out just a few weeks ago, I'm beating Marsha Blackburn with women 49% to 43%. In the overall, still lagging a little behind, but we went up by 4 points last time. She dropped 2. If we do that again, I'll be in the lead. People think that you can't elect a Democrat in Tennessee. We absolutely can. You can't gerrymander a state. And right. So I can't tell you how many Republicans and independents are coming to our campaign, mainly because of Dobbs and abortion and women losing their right to be equal in this state.
But it's
And
not just equal in the state. You're losing your reproductive decision-making rights.
right.
Just keep going back because everybody watched it. I think it's on Netflix, The Handmaid's Tale. And if you didn't watch it,
Yes.
I'm certain that you read the book. Their ideology is straight out of this dystopian, what was the name of it? Gilead, right?
Yes.
This fictitious place called Gilead, where a woman doesn't have control over her reproductive decision-making rights. How does something like this happen in 2025? And that in and of itself should propel her straight out of office.
Absolutely. And when you look at Tennessee, the thing that is so distressing with this terrible trifecta at the top of the ticket, in Tennessee, 1/3 of our counties do not have an OBGYN. And then 1/3 plus of our counties have no delivery room. We are a state that forces a 10-year-old to carry a pregnancy from a rape, but they might be an hour and a half from a hospital. And there's not a OBGYN even in their county. And we know that children carrying pregnancies are at 2 times the risk of adult women. And Tennessee has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the country. So we are putting women and girls at risk. Since Dobbs, we have dropped in the number of OBGYNs coming for their residency to Tennessee has dropped by 21%.
Wow.
So as the years pass, we will continue to lose these docs, which put all women and girls at risk in our state. And the leadership here cares nothing about that. Our governor is straight up Christian nationalist, and that is the direction he's taking us.
Yeah, and a white male Christian nationalist. It's like I said, it's like one of the commanders right out of Gilead. Yeah. So let's jump on to Kamala Harris as the nominee for a quick second. What do you see as her key strengths being vice president that you think make her suitable as the nominee for the Democratic Party?
Yeah, she's way more than suitable. She is so qualified and so prepared. She has been doing this, President Biden. And for me, of course, her dedication to the issue of gun violence and, her coming to Tennessee when Tennessee so desperately needed to hear from someone that cared deeply about the communities when it comes to gun violence. And, Tennessee, we know that gun violence is the #1 killer of children, but Tennessee has 36% more children die from gun violence than the national average because of our lax gun laws. And so it's so critical we have a president who understands that. We have a president who understands that women are not equal if we don't have bodily autonomy. And she's going to fight for that. I know she's going to fight, and I want to fight right alongside her for those things. And I know that she believes in access to health care for everyone. Education here is a problem. Marsha Blackburn wants to get rid of the Federal Department of Education. Those monies for Federal Department of Education come to this state for free and reduced lunches to make sure the 1 in 5 kids who go to bed hungry in Tennessee at least get 2 meals a day. It funds all the special ed services. I taught special ed for 27 years. It's near and dear to my heart. And I know when you fund those programs that these kids will be successful. And so I know that she is going to fight for all of those things. And I know that she will be a wonderful, qualified president. I just heard one of my congressmen here in this state, the congressman in my district, make a horrible, say that she was a DEI hire. And we all know what that means. She is 100 times more qualified than the Republican nominee. And I will debate that against anyone.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, look, I'm a big fan. I had met her several years back when I was one of my 7 times that I testified before congressional committees. And I found her to be, incredibly compassionate and her questioning was spot on. It was thought out, as opposed to somebody that just says to one of their legislative aides, come up with like 20 questions for Michael Cohen that I want to ask, based upon what Donald wanted to be asked. I gave her a lot of credit, and I agree with you. I mean, we're basically talking about a prosecutor versus a felon in this upcoming presidential race. I mean, it's really what it is. And she should stick that up his ass as often as she possibly can. Look, I used to put away people like you on a regular basis, not put them into the White House, put them behind bars. Just constantly hammer the point. You, sir, are a twice impeached, 4-time indicted rapist, civil assaulter, civil fraudster, and a 34 criminal count felon. All right. There's no other way to describe you. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is just busy. And you don't have time to go to the doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through HIMSS, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. HIMSS is changing men's health care by providing access to affordable sexual health treatments, all from the comfort of your own couch. HIMSS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments, such as chewable hard mints, proven treatments like Viagra and Cialis, or their generics for get a load of this, for up to 95% cheaper. The process is simple and 100% online. No uncomfortable doctor visits. So just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option for you. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you for free. And no insurance is needed. Pay one low price for your treatments, online visits, ongoing shipments, and provider messaging. I mean, HIMSS has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers. So if ED is getting you down, it's time that you find the option that works for you. So go right now and start your free online visit today at HIMSS.com/Cohen. That's HIMS.com/Cohen for your personalized ED treatment options. That's HIMSS, HIMS.com/Cohen. And the products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. And remember, restrictions apply, so see website for details and important safety information. Subscription required, and prices vary based on product and subscription plan. And that's only off of what hasn't been heard yet. We still have 3 more to go, right? So I'm with you on Kamala, and I would love to see, and I don't think Donald will do it, but I would love to see in September the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And one of the things that I am praying for is that, unlike Biden's people, who I reached out along with some other members of Congress to meet with them at Camp David when he was doing his debate prep, let me explain to you how you get under his skin. Because while all of you think that you know how to do it, so far there's only one guy who's actually really held him to account, and that's me, both civilly and criminally. But they didn't want to take me up, so I certainly hope that Kamala's people have more sense than Biden's people. But I do want to ask you this. How do you think that Kamala Harris's experience as vice president will benefit her in the presidential campaign?
Well, I mean, she's been right there by his side, or been doing work, going on assignments that for things that he knows that she can do well. So just all of that experience, all she's learned and all she's seen, she's such a quick learner. And it's kind of amazing to me what I was surprised at when I met her when she came to Fisk University and had a conversation with me and Rep. Jones and Rep. Pearson. I guess I shouldn't have been, but I was a little surprised at how much she knew about organizing. We talked a lot about grassroots organizing around the issue of gun violence. And so, I mean, from bottom to top, She has such a depth of experience. And then adding on to that, how quickly she learns and the time that she's been, at the White House with President Biden, doing work for him and with him. It's unimaginable, the experience that she has. And she is well suited to step right in. He chose her to be able to step in when he decided he wasn't ready. He's done that. And I don't think there's going to be division. I think we're going to all get behind Vice President Harris, and we're excited about it.
Well, we all hope so. Myself included. We all hope that happens. But the folks that are there, right? And I hear this from a lot of people. And I'm not talking about Republicans. I don't give a shit about what they have to say.
Yeah.
I'm talking about friends of mine who are Democrats. They're like, I don't like her. And I'm like, why? Why? What is it about her that you don't like? What is it that she's done that you disagree with? I can't really put my finger on it. And I don't know what it is. It's like a Hillary Clinton disease where, for whatever the reason is, you don't like her, but you don't know why you don't. So the question I really want to ask you, because I argue with them. I happen to think she's wonderful. I really do. I think I've been waiting for a long time to see a woman president in the United States. I could not have been happier when President Obama was elected. I wanted to see that in my lifetime, but I've wanted to see a woman like a Kamala Harris, who I kind of put her up there with like the gold in my ears. I put her up there with like a Margaret Thatcher, right? The woman with the iron knickers. That's how I see Kamala. And my question is, or my concern is, what strategies do you think that she's going to need to employ to unite the party and appeal to this broad Democratic voter base?
I think some of that, you're right. You're right to compare it, I think, to Hillary Clinton, because I think about, Hillary Clinton was beat up for so many years, and Vice President Harris hasn't had that long of a time of being beat up by the other side. But the reality is, who do they beat up? They beat up the folks who are effective. They beat up Hillary Clinton. They beat up Nancy Pelosi, and they beat up Vice President Harris, and they're going to do that. They beat up
Michael Cohen pretty damn good too.
Who is effective, right? They beat you up because you were affected in doing something a lot of other folks could not or would not do. So that's who they beat up on, those folks who are effective. And yes, they're going to beat up on her, but it's very clear that she has the stuff to do it. And I'll say, quite frankly, even Democrats sometimes are not immune to the trashing of some of our Democratic folks, especially women and especially those effective ones. So they're just going to have to really think about, I asked my friends to think about, what is it either about Nancy Pelosi or Hillary Clinton that you don't like? And ultimately it came down to years of information, even if it came from the other side. And when they thought about it, when they saw who that person was, they understood that they were a victim somewhat to the other side's message. And I think that in some cases, that's what it is. But if you are effective, they will come for you, as they have for me, as they have for you. So I think that is the biggest piece of it. They're scared to death. And they don't like women. That's just, Republicans don't like women. But this is going to be something they never expected, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, I'm not sure if they don't like women, especially the ones that are underage, because there's a whole lot of that goes on in the GOP, and right. I don't mean to be sarcastic, and I don't mean to minimize, the grossness of, it's funny how they are so good at pointing their fingers at Democrats, right? When the truth is, they really are they are the party of, disgrace. That's how I see them. But with all of the stuff that you just said, so the question then really becomes, what do we need to do to counteract Donald Trump's influence and his rhetoric during the campaign and leading up to election night.
We need to. One thing I learned from his presidency was we've got to call out the lies. We've got to call out the statements that are direct lies. We have to call out everything that is racist, misogynist, xenophobic, because it's every single day, and we've got to call it out, call it what it is, because that is how the Republican Party, they only win by division. Democratic politics is a politics of addition and multiplication. We want to bring people in. We want people who care deeply about their community and everyone, who respect the human dignity of every single person in the district. I have to respect the human dignity of everyone I represent. Donald Trump, Marsha Blackburn, J.D. Vance, they don't respect the human dignity of the majority of their constituents. I don't have to agree with everyone, but I do need to hear them. I need to listen, and I need to respect that they are human beings that live in this country. And so Republicans want to demonize the other. They want to divide us and split us up. Well, this particular group is causing this problem. That's the only way they win, is division. And we need to hold tight together as one group and press on with a multiracial, multi-generational, and multi-partisan group that's going to elect Vice President Kamala Harris to the presidency and myself to the U.S. Senate.
Yeah. Well, look, let me be clear about something. You're not supposed to agree with anybody 100%.
That's right.
I mean, I don't even know if I agree. I don't know if I agree with myself 100% of the time. Ed Koch was actually very famous for a quote. If you agree with me 6 out of 12 times, you should vote for me. If you agree with me 12 out of 12 times, you should seek a psychiatrist. And he's 100% correct. I don't agree with Joe Biden on 12 out of 12 policy matters. We come from different parts of the world. We have different backgrounds. We have different likes and dislikes. His favorite color may be blue. Mine may be pink. Who knows? He may like to drive a station wagon. I may like to drive a sports car. We all have different beliefs and different upbringings and so on. I don't agree with him, but I'll tell you what, I do agree that he cares about America. He cares about the Constitution. He cares about America's democracy for all people, men, women, right? He's just an empathetic, kind person who wants to unite all America, not just those that are willing to give fealty to him. We fought for this right of independence. We fought for not to have a king, a dictator, a monarch, a supreme leader, a Führer. We fought for that. And why? And I don't understand why there's a group of Americans, rich and poor and middle class, that all believe that Donald Trump somehow is the next coming of Christ, and that he is destined to be our supreme leader. I don't understand what they're thinking.
Yeah, it's hard for me to even understand, because Joe Biden is such a patriot, and as you said, cares deeply about this country, believes that we are united under one flag, and one purpose is to lift Americans up. Just like we in Tennessee want to lift people into the middle class instead of having them fall out of the middle class. That's what Joe Biden wants to do for the entire country, and still wants to do. And so there's no contest between President Biden, Vice President Harris on this ticket of Trump and Vance, who really only wants the country to be what they believe it should be. I got involved in partisan politics because I really believed in President Barack Obama. That was my first foray into partisan politics. But, even then, and even that, I didn't agree with everything he said. And I didn't expect to agree with everything he said. One thing people say to me all the time, especially my Republican supporters, is, Gloria, I don't agree with you all the time, but I trust that you'll listen to me, and I trust you with my vote.
Use the Ed Koch line. It's comical, but yet it's impactful because it speaks truth, right? You're not supposed to agree with me 12 out of 12 times. In fact, assuming it's a woman speaking to you, your significant other, do you acknowledge 12 out of 12 things that they say, or do you have your own opinion on that? Right? Do you have children?
Yeah.
You think your children agree with you 12 out of 12 times? I think the answer to that is no. But if you agree with me on the important things, on 6 out of 12, that's when you should vote for me.
Yeah. And that's what one woman who came to one of my, on my 95 county tour in Upper East Tennessee, she said to me, my husband really apologizes. He couldn't be here. He wanted to meet you. And she said, we are lifelong Republicans. And I said, well, if you don't mind me asking, what brought you to our campaign? And she said that, because normally what I hear at that point is Dobbs and gun violence. And she said, because me and my husband sat on the sofa and watched the entire hearings of you and your colleagues as they tried to expel you from the legislature. And so, and she said at the end, when it was over, she said, my husband is more conservative than me. But when it was over, he said, I will never vote for a Tennessee Republican again.
Yeah, well, it makes
because
perfect
they
sense.
saw the racism, they saw the misogyny. And she goes, if we had read it in the newspaper, I don't know if we would have felt the same, but we watched it happen and we couldn't believe our eyes. And so where the Republican Party has gone today, where the general Republican out in the community is not where these elected Republicans are at. Certainly in Tennessee, and the ones at the top of the ticket for the Republicans are not where the majority of Americans are. And I think that they're going to find out in November of 2024 how wrong they were.
Yeah, well, let's hope, because like I've said before, twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexual assaulter, civil fraudster, criminal fraudster, happens to be right now neck and neck with a very decent man who has accomplished more in 3.5 years, I think, than any president in the last 100 years. And yet, this race is still a toss-up. That's something not to be said about Joe Biden. It's something to be said about us. Somewhere along the line, there's something that we are missing. There's something.
Yeah. Let me tell you something interesting about that I discovered as I started going out on this 95 county tour. I was in a rural county, Hardeman County, with a gentleman who was a farmer. And he said, here's the interesting thing. He said, 4 years ago on this highway, every single farm except mine had a Trump sign out front. And he said, you go down this highway today, there's not one Trump sign. And we're looking as we're crossing the country, crossing the state, and we see very few Trump signs.
Why do you think that?
Well, because I think that they're ashamed. And then Vanderbilt did a poll in December of 2023. Vanderbilt poll asked the question, who will you support, Trump or Biden? And it was 50% for Trump, which to me seems very low for Tennessee at this point. I would think it would be 60 plus, but it was 50. Then the poll they just did a few months ago, it had Trump at 47. And then they asked the question, and this was right before he was convicted of some of those felonies. They asked the question, if he is convicted of these felonies, who will you vote for, Biden or Trump?
So what do you think that these constituents of yours see as the biggest threats to democracy that another Trump candidacy or a Trump presidency poses?
Vulnerable communities, to women, to the disabled, to our senior citizens. we're not all
Yeah,
so
don't
privileged.
discount the LGBTQ plus, the transgender communities,
Oh,
and so on.
yes. Our state is probably harder than most others when it comes to the LGBTQ community. That's another reason I have had folks coming to me saying they're supporting my campaign because they work with or have someone in their family who is in the LGBTQ community. And these guys think that's some sort of campaign win for them. It hasn't worked in a single state. When are they going to learn? That most of us have lived with LGBTQ community, know these folks, they're friends of ours or family members of ours, and don't believe in this hate they are espousing, especially in the state of Tennessee. 27 bills 1 year against the LGBTQ community. It's outrageous. And they're just wrong on where people fall on this issue. They're so out of touch with even Republican voters. MAGA Republicans polled in Tennessee, the majority of them want abortion for exceptions for life of the mother, rape, and incest, and we don't have those.
No. And if you listen to Trump and his nonsensical rhetoric, I mean, at the debate, and I think it's things like this that unfortunately is what really did Joe Biden in. When Trump started talking about being the guy that was responsible for overturning the 50-year stare decisis of Roe versus Wade, that Democrats, they don't care when the abortion takes place. First trimester, second trimester, the third trimester, or even after the child is born. And I'm saying to myself, wait, did this idiot just turn around and say that Democrats believe in post-birth abortion? So imagine a burglary at your home. And if you're picturing this shadowy character sneaking about under the cloak of night, you may be surprised to learn that according to the FBI, most break-ins happen during broad daylight, and believe it or not, they spike during the summer when more homes sit unattended and the days grow longer. That's why you need Simply Safe home security now. Simply Safe is the only security company I trust with my own home and family's protection, offering me peace of mind whether I'm home or away. And here's why I love it. I love Simply Safe because when you leave your home, you're leaving everything that's you, all your valuables. And here, you know that your home is protected. With Fast Protect monitoring and LiveGuard protections, Simply Safe agents can act within 5 seconds. Get a look, within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm, and they can even see and speak to intruders to stop them in their tracks. You'll never be locked into a long-term contract, so you can cancel anytime. Pricing is transparent and affordable at less than $1 a day with no hidden fees ever. And Simply Safe has been named Best Home Security Systems by U.S. News & World Report for 5 years running and offers the best customer service in home security according to Newsweek. It's easy to install and activate your Simply Safe system in less than an hour, or choose professional installation to have a pro do it for you. So my friends, protect your home this summer with 20% off any new Simply Safe system when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring, and just go and visit right now, simplysafe.com/mea culpa. That's simplysafe.com/mea culpa. That's Simply Safe, SIMPLISAFE.com/mea culpa. There's no safe like Simply Safe, because that's not an abortion, that's murder. So I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. And I tried to figure it out. There's some right-wing horse shit about this, and so on, which, again, it's that misinformation, disinformation, malinformation propaganda to rally up this Southern white Christian coalition base, this evangelical base, which is not rooted in reality. What do you do? What do you do to combat that sort of nonsense?
Well, you have to call it out. The first day that I announced Marsha Blackburn came out and said, I believe in abortion even after birth. That is so ridiculous, ignorant, and insane that I can't believe, I sort of can, that she even uttered those words. I mean, that is not the case. I'm so sick and tired. And that's where I talk about we have to call out the lie. That late term abortion, that after the child is born, is all nonsense and a lie. It's a blatant, ugly lie. And we all know no one decorates their nursery and then decides at 8 months to have an abortion. This is not a thing that happens. What happens is something goes terribly wrong. There is a mother and a family that wanted that baby, but something's gone wrong.
Sure.
And the woman and the doctor have to make a decision. And quite frankly, the government has no place in that decision. It's about saving lives at that point in time. And it is not the government's business.
No, it's not. So let me ask you this, because obviously we have all seen what a Trump presidency looks like. We all know the manner to which Trump ran his previous campaign and how he's running the current campaign. So what lessons do you think that the Harris team, I would have said the Biden-Harris team, but we'll call it the Harris, the I don't know who team, what do you think that they've learned from Trump's previous campaign that they could use and apply to this election campaign?
I think that they've learned how to respond to some of these outrageous things. And I think that we are going to see that. I think we're going to see them calling them out. We saw that a lot with social media changes with President Biden on how you reacted to things. Sometimes, I mean, literally, sometimes the things that they say are so ignorant, you just have to make fun of it. You have to shame them and make fun of them for just the outrageous, but you have to call them to account. You have to hold them accountable for the racist, misogynistic, xenophobic comments and legislation that they pass and that they bring and the statements that they make. We have to call them out.
Gloria, have you ever heard of my rant when I talk about how Donald Trump talks on a daily basis? When I say, and I'm shocked that more Democrats don't just use the same message that I do. He is, and this entire Republican Party, they are a group of racists, they're sexists, they're misogynistic, they're xenophobic, they're homophobic, they're Islamophobic, and they're anti-Semitic to boot. That's who they are. And what they want a white, Christian, nationalistic country. That's Mike Johnson's words. He wants to return America to a white, Christian, nationalist country. And I would just turn around and say to him, this country has never been a white Christian nationalist. What do you do with all of the Muslims? What do you do with all of the Jews? What do you do with all of the Hindus or Buddhists or Scientologists or atheists, right? What do you do with them? Do you ship them out of the country? Do you put them in internment camps, as you guys keep talking about? What is it that you're going to do? Are we going to have another Inquisition?
I think what we find with these folks is they're so terrified when someone doesn't bend to their will, when someone doesn't believe what they want to believe. You know, as a Democrat, when, I win an election, I don't think that means everybody in my district should now agree with me. Republicans in my district are still going to believe whatever they believe. But these folks think when they win, you have to side with them and believe what they believe. People will come up to me all the time. I'm sure you agree that. No, I absolutely don't agree with that. And I can't imagine why you think I would agree with that.
It's funny because I can't say the same things that you do, but I have people and some who I used to call friends that say exactly the same thing. Come on, you know that you believe. So I said, I believe that. So I say, I believe that you're a fucking idiot. That's really what I believe. And I believe that it's easy for you to say it because you have boys and not a girl. I said, however, you do have nieces and, and you may have granddaughters and so on. Do you really want your granddaughter living in a society that is looking to figure out how to take away rights instead of improving and increasing rights? Which brings me to this question that I do want to ask you, and so on. Obviously, we're hearing so much talk about this Project 2025. So, two-part question here. What are your primary concerns about Trump's endorsement of Project 2025? And more importantly, how do you think Democrats should articulate their opposition to Project 2025 to the public?
Well, I think that we're doing a good job getting out the message, because one thing I can tell you about visiting these rural counties in Tennessee, the first thing when I walk into the room, the first thing someone will say is, "Are you going to talk about Project 2025? They're educated, they've heard about it, they're aware, and they're fighting back hard. And I think even the Republicans have realized this was a huge mistake, because we are seeing that it is an undoing of democracy and this country as it was intended. And it is a march towards white nationalism, Christian nationalism, fascism, all of those things. This is what it's a march toward. And it is the undoing of all of our democratic norms. And people recognize that. And you must recognize how vulnerable peoples, this will be a disaster and quite frankly, death for many of our vulnerable communities. I mean, this Project 2025 is, it's an undoing of everything this country was built on. And people should recognize that. And we're trying to get the information out as much as we can. But I feel that it's doing well, because I haven't been in a single county where folks didn't want to talk about it.
Right. Well, the problem, though, is so many people talk about it, but they've never read not even a single page of it. Because and I'll tell you, you got to give this Heritage Foundation a lot of credit. How many people, I'm an avid reader. When I was in Otisville, when I was in prison, I read 97 books in the course of 1 year. Right? I read everything I could, and I was getting so many books from people. I got more books. I probably am responsible for 20% of the library's newest books, if not more. And I would share the books with everybody. It's a 900-page manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
How many people have read War and Peace? I haven't.
Yeah.
I see that gigantic book. I have no interest in reading War and Peace. I'll wait for the movie, you know? Maybe that's the right answer. Maybe what somebody needs to do is bring in a documentarian, right? The dangers of 2025, and then sort of put it out there where in an hour you could dissect the dangers of Project 2025, because, as you said, it's the dismantling of everything that we have grown to know, whether it's federal agencies, the EPA, whether it's gun legislation, registrations. I mean, it's just everything across the board. It's stripping the tripartite system of government and empowering solely, which is something Trump talks about. Yes. He's the one who turned and said he wants to rewrite the Constitution on day number 1. I mean, what's he going to write it in crayon? And then all of a sudden he's going to employ SEAL Team 6 to go ahead and to go after people that he doesn't like, who are critical of him. I'm not even sure what a country like that looks like, unless, again, you go to Netflix and you watch The Handmaid's Tale. But can I ask you this question, going back to something that you were talking about in your district? Because I think it's extremely important that people have to understand, Gloria, exactly who you are and so on as a representative. It's sort of like there's, especially in Tennessee, like in so many different districts and in so many different states, the economic inequality that exists now in America has never been higher. You know, the funny thing is the disparity between the uber wealthy right? Like an Elon Musk who's giving $45 million a month until the election to Trump. Clearly, we understand that he's buying him, and Donald is for sale. If you take the differential between his wealth and somebody who's worth $10 million, guy retires, he's got $10 million in the bank. You take the disparity between him and an Elon Musk, and then you take somebody who has $0, homeless, to the guy with $10 million. The disparity from the 10 million to the mega billionaire is like 50 times greater than the disparity between the homeless to the guy who's worth 10 million. That's a real problem in our country when you have a group of people like an Elon Musk who have this fuck you money where nothing matters to them, that there's nothing that they really can do. There's no litigation that they can't sustain. They could hire every single law firm in the entire state to hurt somebody if they truly wanted to. So my question to you is, can you share with us any legislative initiatives that you plan to introduce that will provide, say, direct support to working families to help to balance out this economic inequality, such as like even things like child care assistance or paid family leave, or I guess you brought up before, increased minimum wage, just so that people can live. They can live with honor and decency and respect.
Absolutely, and that's the legislation that I bring. In the Tennessee House, I brought legislation to expand Medicaid. So federal counterpart, Medicare for all, making sure that just in whatever form, making sure that everyone can go to the doctor when they're sick. And in Tennessee, we're number one in medical bankruptcies because we haven't expanded Medicaid. No one should lose their home or their business because they get sick. My sister lost both. And because they had a small business and she needed her third brain surgery, she was dropped from that insurance. And it was only the ACA and getting rid of pre-existing condition that allowed her to get back with insurance again. She has now passed away. That time without insurance was not helpful to her condition. So the reality is we can make sure everyone has access to affordable health care. We can raise the wage. I brought a bill this year to raise the wage to $20 an hour in Tennessee. I brought a bill the last few years I've been there, at least for 4 years, for paid family leave. A very conservative plan within Tennessee that didn't cost the state a penny and didn't cost a business a penny, but was paid for by the employee that works full time, putting in about $4 a week to cover after working a year and putting in their $4 a week, they could have 12 weeks paid family leave. Child care infrastructure is absolutely something we have got to do. Mm-hmm. Make sure that people who can afford child care, in Tennessee, they like to say, oh, people are just living large on unemployment. Tennessee cut unemployment back to 12 checks. That's all you get, 12 weeks. No one's living large on Tennessee, one of the lowest rates of unemployment, for 12 weeks. What is happening, it's too expensive for childcare for some folks to go back to work. It is too expensive for them to go back to work because childcare is too expensive, and Tennessee has done nothing to assist there. So an enhanced child tax credit that Marsha Blackburn has voted against. These are the things that Tennessee families need. A well-resourced classroom for their kids, whatever zip code they live in, needs to have a well-resourced classroom. And these are the things that are going to lift families up. Pro-family legislation that is lifting all boats instead of tax cuts for the wealthy and well-connected and the wealthiest at the top. Tennessee, this past year in our last session, gave a $1.8 billion tax credit, the largest tax credit in Tennessee history, to a few corporations that didn't even need it nor ask for it. $1.8 billion. We have a 10% sales tax on groceries in Tennessee. we wanted to remove the state portion of sales tax for every Tennessee family. And instead, they did a $1.8 billion tax credit for businesses, large corporations for the most part. 18% of those businesses were actually out of state. And 53% of the money went to 18% of the businesses that were out of state. This is what Tennessee decided to do. And this is who the Tennessee GOP are, including Senator Marsha Blackburn, who does nothing for Tennessee families.
And unbelievable. And yet, year after year after year, reelected, reelected, reelected. So, Gloria, let me ask you, because the hour goes by very quickly on Mea Culpa. So I have like one last question for you. You know that I believe that Gen Z and the female population will be the ultimate deciders in this election. It's really three. It's three groups. It's women, it's the Black community, and I believe Gen Z. And there's a cross, obviously, in between. If you're going to do it as like a pie graph, right? You know, there's obviously, you know, there's from the Black community, there are women. And some of them are between the ages of 18 and, say, 25. So, you know, there's that cross section there. But the question I really want to ask you is, what specific strategies are you employing? Because I don't see Marsha Blackburn as somebody who's able to get down into the weeds, right, with any of these three groups, right? Women have to hate her because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade and her fealty to Donald. The Black community, she's done nothing for them. And Gen Z, they just can't seem to get, she's Donald. You know, she's Donald with boobs, plain and simple. So what strategies are you employing to engage and mobilize these voters in your district, especially as these individuals all feel disenfranchised or disillusioned, or at least they should, with this political process?
Well, or as Taylor Swift called Marsha, Trump with a wig. But absolutely,
by the way,
you know,
I couldn't think of. By the way, I'm so sorry. I couldn't think of that as a line, so I called her Trump with boobs. I'm sorry, because that's what I was trying to think. I just couldn't remember.
Well, you know, people always ask, how do we get the young people to vote? Well, you've got to talk about the things that they care about. They care deeply about gun violence. They care deeply about reproductive rights. They care deeply about climate change. You know, we are talking about all of those things, and we are out in the community. When I go to these counties, I'm reaching out to all groups of people. I'm a grassroots person. I learned that under President Obama. Grassroots are critical. So we are knocking doors everywhere that we can go in this state. Before I ran for office, I talked to Stacey Abrams, and she said, go where they don't expect you, go everywhere. And so that's what we're doing. We're going everywhere. We're having conversations with everyone and reaching out to those who feel disenfranchised. As a matter of fact, in 2018, Marsha Blackburn won by 200,000 votes. We know that there are 300,000 Democrats who haven't voted in the last few elections. And so we are targeting those folks. We want to make sure that those people understand what's at stake for them and getting them out to vote. Because when we get those folks out to vote, we win this U.S. Senate seat. And not only that, we flip down ballot races as well to get out of the super minority in the state house and the state Senate. So that's what we're about, going door to door, making personal phone calls, having conversations with voters. Marsha Blackburn hasn't had a town hall in 7.5 years. As a matter of fact, she says she's doing a 95 county tour, but she just had her first public announced event about 2 weeks ago, and she was a no-show. They said she had strep throat.
Well, let me say this to you. Well, let me say this to you, Gloria. You want me to join you? I'm happy to join you on part of your tour. And so on.
That'd be great.
You know, we need to do everything. We need to flip more seats. And you're right. because by flipping the top seats, you start flipping the bottom seats and down the ballot from from Congress down to city council, down to local election boards and state representatives. And so you got to flip the whole thing. You just want, until we get rid of, and I wrote this in my book, it's the last line of my book, Revenge, Trumpism is fascism, and we must eradicate it from our body politic, plain and simple. And I think your message is right on point. So, you want any help, you just let me know. You have your people, you know how to reach out to me. So,
yes.
More than happy. And we'll go visit my friend in his restaurants.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you, and good luck with that. And I'm here to help in any way that I can.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
See you soon.
See ya.